All right, so it is that time of year again out of the West Coast. Officials are preparing for what is expected to be a dangerous and widespread heat wave this week. Now, record temperatures could spark wildfires in states including California, Nevada, and New Mexico. Wildfires often lead to rolling blackouts and evacuations, but what are some of the most long-lasting costs and economic effects from these weather events? Well, joining us now for more is Chief Economist at Milken Institute, William Lee. William, thank you so much for being here. Let's start with California. The state was the first to close its economy due to COVID-19. Today's a really big milestone with it fully reopening, but then this happens, right? How badly could these rising temperatures impact the state's economic reopening?
When we think about climate change, I think every Californian remembers that the most important thing about climate is that it affects our ability to get water and affects our ability to have steady, reliable power. I think going forward and how the economy is going to have to adapt is whether or not California can reassure its citizens that the water supply is going to be plentiful and remain plentiful. And California has benefited from the farsightedness of Governor Brown in the 60s and Mulholland back in the 20s, where the aqueduct systems were set up to really bring water from very far away to the population centers of California. What worries me now is that we don't have such far-sighted leaders to say, where's our next set of aqueducts coming from and what water supplies are we going to tap? Are we going to go into a war, interstate war with Nevada and other neighboring states to get the water from the Colorado River, or where else can we go? The other thing is power. Californians have always enjoyed the premier lifestyle because of steady, reliable power. Now that comes into question, especially what happened last year, and we see our utilities going bankrupt. That is another challenge that the leadership is going to have to face, which is how do we generate power in a reliable, clean fashion? Everyone talks about solar and wind, but sun doesn't always shine, wind doesn't always come in the right places in the right times. So how do we get power? Or better yet, how do we smooth the demand for power so that what we have, our abilities to generate, is able to generate enough power for everyone? And that means battery storage and essentially local generation of power to supply local needs at the peak times.
I find this interesting. It appears that, the rising cost of housing prices in the Golden State really could lead to an increased risk of wildfires and then have further economic, impacts. How so?
One of the things about California is that it has attracted everyone there because that's where the jobs are, or at least were, because the growing industries are there. Now, because of the high cost of living in California and these challenges posed by climate, people are saying, geez, isn't there a better place that we can move to? And so you see a growing exodus of people from California to lower tax havens. But a lot of the Western states share the same climate problems. Las Vegas is suffering from water shortages as much as California is, and they're both fighting. Los Angeles and Las Vegas are both fighting for that same water supply coming off the Colorado River. So in some sense, the race away from California has got to go further than the Western states, and hence we see this huge migration to Texas. And I think that's one of the consequences we see of a state like California that isn't able to convince its citizens that they can reliably supply the needed water and power that its citizens need to generate the jobs that drew people there in the first place.
We know back in May, California Governor Gavin Newsom proposed a $2 billion budget for wildfire preparedness. Aside from the budget, what else should leaders in that state, maybe even in the region, what should they be doing to stave off these kind of growing number of wildfires, especially given that they're human activity related?
The loss of human lives is tragic in California, and in some ways, it's a shame that so much of it occurred because it could have been prevented. Getting rid of that brush, being able to do the kind of maintenance that fell by the wayside because of budget cuts and because of priorities elsewhere. I think that the key to keeping down deaths in the future is not so much just worrying about climate and trying to somehow get the global temperatures down, but it's really basic maintenance of getting rid of the brush, getting rid of the debris that causes these wildfires, and right now helping the homeless who are roaming around the Palisades setting fires. And so we have social problems on top of climate and other economic problems that are behind the rash of brush fires, which are expected to get worse over the course of the next year or so.
What are some of the other economic costs, not just, in California, but really for other states in that region related to the high temperatures, next week and that we're going to be seeing?
The cost, as I said before, was something has to do with whether people can reliably stay at home and feel safe and feel that their jobs are secure. I think California is starting to lose that assurance over its citizens. And what's sad is that it's also a wealth divide there. The poor people have no place to go. And they say, well, look, I just need to get away from the heat. I'm going to take a drive out to the mountains. But what you discover is that the inability to have adequate highways is preventing people from taking that vacation. Rich people already are, over the heights of the Palisades and Beverly Hills in their nice air-conditioned climates with greenery all around them. And I think that social gap is one of the difficulties that is going to get more and more exaggerated over time, because the relief from the heat and the power shortages and the water shortages is really going to be divided along class lines. The poorer you are, the more affected you'll be by climate change. The people who live in Palo Alto and in the Heights are going to be fine.
We know that these severe weather events are obviously caused by, climate change, global warming. What is your biggest concern when it comes to a global warming and as it relates to our economy?
I think people seem to have their eyes focused on the big macro picture and lose sight of the micro solutions. Micro solutions like get rid of the brush, spend the money, and get rid of the hinder that has caused a lot of these fires. Get rid of the homeless from the places that are setting the fires. Provide for them in a way so that they don't go running around setting fires. Micro solutions to macro problems is something that I think is detailed, nitty-gritty type stuff, and it doesn't fit into that nice genre of let's worry about climate change and global solutions and try to get global multilateral cooperation. In California, it really is county by county and block by block. And those are the kind of conditions that we have to worry about much more in California.
Chief Economist at Milken Institute, William Lee, thank you so much.